which are the triune aspects of the sun god, the sun rising, the sun at the meridian, and the sun setting. You have the pillars, you have the black and white squares, because this God is both good and evil. You can worship him in his Lucifer, in his light form, the God of good, the one who is the enemy of Adonai, which is Jesus Christ. And both of them are God. Unfortunately, so they say. What is more, you'll find symbols of this deity leading up to this famous star that is situated in the east, which is the dog star, which is Sirius, which is the symbol of Lucifer, because it is the brightest star in the heavens. You will notice crosses and keys and anchors and all these systems as you travel up this ladder of Freemasonry, which is a ladder of works. You obtain your points, as it were, as you travel up. And then you have a north, a east, a south, and a west in the tracing board. And the north is the seat of darkness. There are normally 3 lights, 3 candles in Freemasonry, the north being the place of darkness. Now if you go to the Bible, the north is the throne of God, and it represents that portion which is in darkness, where Adonai is. The light is in the east, where the dog star is, and the dog star is the one that is worshipped. And the Bible says that you should not worship towards the east, and that was a system of sun worship. So this is Osiris worship. These symbols, of course, come from Catholicism, because Catholicism teaches exactly the same thing in its secret mysteries. Here's the tracing board of the 2nd degree. That was the 1st degree. It's very similar. Again, you have the black and white squares. Then you have the 2 pillars of Yachim and Boaz. And they base it on the system of the Temple of Solomon. But Solomon is used as an acronym. They use it as an acronym. It's not really Solomon. It is Sol On. Sol is the name for the sun in the Latin, and Sol was the eastern form of the sun god, and On was the Egyptian form of the sun god. And they have secret code words, and they even chant in their secret codes, "O wonderful Lucifer." Lucifer is the god behind the scenes. All the symbols behind it, for example, the sexagesimal over here, the 6-pointed star with a G in it. The G stands for geometry. The G stands for the Grand Master. It does not stand for God. And if you go into a Freemason lodge, then you will find that the brightest seat is where the worshipful master sits. He sits in the east. And then you will have Helios, the sun god, on the south side. And on the west side, you will have Pythagoras, who was the occult god of geometry and mathematics, and a wizard in his days. So it's witchcraft. That's what it's about in its deepest sense. Now, if you go to Roman Catholicism, you will find the vision of Don Bosco, 1862, and Don Bosco declared that the papacy would succeed in landing the gospel ship between the twin pillars of the faith. So here again, as in Freemasonry, you have 2 pillars. And the one pillar has the Eucharist on it with the letters IHS, Isis, Horus, Set, and the other pillar has Mary on it, and that represents the twin pillars of the gospel. Now, in the final analysis, this first pillar, the Eucharist, is the celebration of the sacrifice of Christ. In a sense, it is the sacrifice or the celebration of the victory of Lucifer over Jesus Christ. And Jesus is kept dead by having the sacrifice repeated all around the world. So the sacrifice is a continual. Jesus is constantly nailed to the cross. So the greatest pillar represents the victory of Lucifer over Jesus Christ. And the smaller pillar represents the replacing of the tamid, the continual, the ministry of Christ with that of another, and they have the female form of the deity Lucifer, who is androgenic, both male and female. He can appear as Maitreya or he can appear as Mary. And both of these deities are interchangeable, or you can have a total mixture of them. So homosexuality, lesbianism, all these things are totally acceptable depending on whether you are on the white or the black or the merged squares. The Bible, Revelation 14:12, also talks about something to base your faith on. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are the ones who keep the commandments of God. So one pillar of faith is the commandments of God, and the other is the faith of Jesus. Whereas in Luciferian worship, it is the victory over Jesus and the replacing of Jesus which take the place of those two components. And these two world systems are coming into collision. And that's where the rubber will meet the road. Let's go into the book of amulets. New Age teaches about trinkets and amulets and little charms and things like that, and they have all kinds of shapes and sizes. We'll be dealing with them as we go into Freemasonry. It also teaches about the cosmic keys, 2 keys, which were the keys to heaven and to hell, and who is the one who holds the keys today? Who's the high priest of the keys in the world? It is the Pope, who has the twin keys. So all the symbols in Freemasonry are also the symbols of Catholicism. And remember the old acronym: if it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. The two systems are exactly the same. Then there's pyramid power. Pope Sixtus had the pyramid on his head. They use all the Egyptian monoliths in Catholicism. There are more in Rome than there are in Egypt. Pyramid power. It is interesting that the pyramid power that you have is a counterfeit. It's a counterfeit. Everything the devil does is a counterfeit of the true. So somewhere of the true there must also be some pyramid. I don't know where it is. One interesting speculation that I heard is that the new city, the New Jerusalem, might be shaped like that, because it is as wide as it is broad, as it is deep, as it is high. And a pyramid has, of course, exactly those dimensions. Anyway, it's also the teaching of astrology. In other words, determining the future by studying the stars. And that is something which the Bible also condemns, very strictly condemns. So astrology forms part of the New Age. Natural healing. Well, there's healing in the biblical sense, and then there is a counterfeit healing. Because truth must always be mingled with error. And you have hands of light. And the idea is that every single human being is Christ and has the capacity of Christ. We're all equal, and we can all learn to be like Christ and to perform the miracles that Christ performed by our own power. Archetypes of the Tree of Life, the Tarot, Patchwork, the Enochian Workbook. These are all New Age documents, and they tell us something about the philosophy. Now, the book of Enoch was, of course, a Gnostic book, and Gnostic writings and apocryphal writings are part of the Roman Catholic system, but they are not part of the Christian system in terms of the Bible, and we'll be dealing with that later as well. So inherent in the New Age movement you have Gnosticism, and Gnosticism is nothing other than the ancient Egyptian cult of Osiris, which has its basis in Baal worship, and it comes from Babylon. So because the sun god has both black and white properties, good and evil incorporated in one, you can be on either side of the spectrum. So the worship of this deity can, for example, embody witchcraft, straightforward witchcraft, the complete book of witchcraft, Wicca witches, and they claim that they are good witches and that they are bad witches, and it doesn't really matter which one you are, because you're still worshipping the same deity, and by the balancing of these forces you find harmony. But God said, I don't want you to know about evil. The fact that you know about evil, does that mean that you have to be evil?